Welcome to Family Life with Mama Rita. I have a very special guest today. My special guest is Dr. Dennis Danso Kumi. Dr. Kumi is a medical doctor at Ika House Clinic in Accra. He is also doctor at Department of Emergency Medicine, Kolebu. He recently started his residency training in Chicago with a hope to be a great cardiologist. Dr. Kumi, you are welcome.
Thank you.
And I miss you. I haven't seen you in how many years?
Like 5 years.
About 5 years. Oh my God. Today, I just couldn't wait to have you in my studio. About 5 years ago, I invited you to Royal Ladies meeting to talk about sickle cell and the blood groups, and is it okay for AC to be married to SS? Is it okay for an SS to be AS to be married to another AS? Is it okay for another SS to be married to an SS? Recently on our program, somebody asked if it was okay to be married. I think he's AS and has met another lady or has met a lady who is SS. And he wanted to find out and to ask if it was okay to marry. I knew that wasn't my level. I'm staying in my level. So, pardon? The herbalist level. I like that. I want to stay at the herbalist level. So, you are welcome once more. I want to find out if we talk about blood types, blood group, genotype, phenotype, water type. In the nutshell, what are we looking at?
All right. Thank you very much, and I'm glad to be back. So, like I said last time, just like the parable of the sower, I like the parts where the seeds fell in the tongues.
That's right. Wow.
So love is very important.
Okay.
But if you don't choose wisely, the tongues could choke you, and love could turn into hatred. So I think it's a very important topic. And
say that again. You said if you don't choose wisely,
yes,
the love
could be choked.
Wow.
There's so many tongues in your life.
Wow.
And we've had situations where people were so in love, but the man then sees the woman and says, since I married you, the moment I am paid my salary, I have to take you to hospital or your son to hospital, and every month this happens. And it's as if, in our local situation, maybe you are the cause of my problems in this life. And so that love then starts to look like almost hatred. So it's important for us to love, very, very important. As in, when I talk of love, I mean the affection for man, woman.
Okay.
But we should also go in there very measured in our thoughts, because not only is it a contract between us, but it's a whole social contract. It's like signing in for a firm. If you just look at the money and you don't look at the quality of life, then you end up regretting something that you go into. So, Mama Rita, you asked what it's all about.
That's right.
Yes, talking about the blood, what we call hemoglobin. I believe our audience would have heard the word hemoglobin.
That's right.
So when you take the blood, what makes the blood look red is called the red blood cells.
Okay.
All right. It's very important because that is what carries the life within you. Without it, you feel weak and all that. But within the red blood cells, the important component is called hemoglobin.
Okay.
And the hemoglobin, there are types. So we say the normal, perfect hemoglobin that is able to do all the functions is called hemoglobin A.
Hemoglobin A.
Yes. And the very...
I hope you are making notes. You will need it.
And the very imperfect one is called hemoglobin S.
Okay.
in between the A and the S, there are variations of imperfections.
Okay.
So there's one called hemoglobin C, which is not too far away from the S. So the C and the S are both quite abnormal, but the S is the most abnormal.
Okay.
There are other ones you hear, these are rare, but we will limit our discussion to probably these three. So when we say someone has sickle cell disease, what it means is that the person has a lot of hemoglobin hemoglobin S.
Okay.
And all his hemoglobins are also abnormal. First of all, a normal human being acquires 2 types of hemoglobin.
Okay.
One from the mother, one from the father. So if we say you are totally normal, it means both hemoglobins in your body are AA.
Okay.
Right? So if we say you are abnormal, anything else apart from AA is abnormal.
Okay.
So some people have hemoglobin S and the other have been A. We say they are sickle cell traits.
Okay.
Others have double portion of hemoglobin S. And we say they have sickle cell anemia.
Okay.
So sickle cell anemia is under the bigger umbrella called sickle cell disease. When we say sickle cell disease, anybody who has hemoglobin S and then the other half 2 is not A.
Okay.
You have S, but your other half 2 is not A. Because we are saying if you have S and the other half is A, you are called sickle cell trait.
Okay.
But if you have the S 50%, then the rest of your hemoglobin is also something else. D, C, whatever. These groups are all put together and we call it sickle cell disease. But the severest form of sickle cell disease, we give it a special name, sickle cell anemia. That means SS.
Okay.
People erroneously call them sickless.
Okay.
And it's a term we are trying to deviate from because that means, forgive me to say in Chi or Yarefo, but that is not a good word to use because such people can live a very perfect life.
Okay.
And
so what do we call them now?
So persons living with sickle cell.
Persons living with sickle cell. Okay.
So it has a lot of burden on the individual, the family, the community, the church, and the country as a whole.
Okay.
So we look at the global burden of sickle cell and what we can do about it. The question is, why is this important? It's important because it affects the couple who are making the decision to get into the relationship and the offspring that come of it. Okay. And in fact, other family members around them. Okay. So briefly, the problems vary.
Okay, so Dr. Kumi, I have 2 daughters who are both AS. So I have 2 AS in my family. What would you advise? What should they look out for if they are going to get married?
So the less,
what would you advise?
Yes, the less the S in your family, the better.
Okay.
And the A is the best to dilute it down.
Okay.
So if you have the chance, you want to get somebody who has AA.
Okay.
The AA meaning that because in all your, what we call gametes, if you are a man, the sperm may either be A or S for an AS person. For the woman, to all her eggs may either be A or S. So it means that either way, you have a 50% of donating your S and 50% of donating your A.
Okay.
If your partner is full AA, then it means either ways you are covered. Okay. Because if I give my S, he dilutes it down with his A. If I give my A, we get AA. Okay. So it's the best choice that you get an AA individual as a partner.
Okay. Is there ever a possibility that an AS could marry another AS and never produce SS? Is there a possibility?
Very much.
I see.
Very much, yes. You know, this is where I say spirituality comes in. Because at every conception, we say it's a probability, it's a gamble.
Okay.
We know scientifically that 2 people who are AS, the chance that a child at any conception will be SS is 25%. It's a quarter chance.
Okay.
But it's like saying that I'm going to stake lotto, but it's a 50 chance that I'll win. Okay. Maybe from my family, we are all lucky. So anytime I stake, I win the 50 chance.
Okay.
Maybe from your family, you are not lucky, and every time you stake, you are going to lose.
Okay.
So in the same way, I am going into my first child.
Okay.
The chance scientifically is that 25% of chance I will get an SS.
Okay.
But maybe I am favored and I always be on the 75%. So I can have 10 children who are all going to be AA.
Okay.
So that is possible.
Okay. But so far, with all the people I've dealt with who were ASAS, so far, I haven't seen any who never had SS. They would have maybe one AA, one AS, one SS. So like you are saying, the chances.
Exactly.
So it means that we are loving. But in loving,
yeah, exactly.
in loving, please hit it hard for me.
Yes, you need
loving.
to make informed choice.
Okay.
All right, informed choice. So I am not a gambler. So if I'm going into something, at least I should have about 90% assurance that this one, I will make it. But I'm not a 50-50 person where I know a big chance that 50% I will lose and I still want to go in. So it's a gamble for people to go into. You know that the chances that you have sickle cell, maybe all your 10 children will be sickle cell. Okay. And it's difficult to predict. So it's like you have at the back of your mind that this chance is there at any time you have a child. Okay. All right.
In Royalhouse Chapel, before you get married, before we take you through counseling and all that, we make you go and do a blood test. And then we find out your sickle cell, your blood group. And you'll be surprised. So many people do not know their blood groups. They do not know their sickle cell. They do not know, they don't know anything. And just recently, I think this is barely about a month ago, somebody came to me and said, Mommy, I'm SF. And I've never heard that before. What is it? The truth is, I had also never heard SF before. The only one I know is the AA, the AS, the AC, and the SS. I have never in my lifetime heard SF before. So what is actually the SF? And in getting married, what should she go for?
All right. So as I said, if you can remember, that when we say sickle cell disease, you have S and any other abnormal one.
Okay.
So any hemoglobin aside A is abnormal.
Okay.
So the common ones are SS, SC. But we have other forms of sickle cell disease.
Okay.
So we have SF, even SD.
Wow.
Yes, we have other weirder ones. S, beta,
so,
tau.
Doug, in this case, assuming you get married to, ASF, and you get married to AC or AS, what do you get? What are the combination of children?
So the way to look at the combination is just, cross the numbers and see what can form. All right, so SF and AS. You can form AF. You can form another SF.
Okay.
You can form AS. And all the possible. So any letter in there can combine with each other. And the F is also quite abnormal. Actually, the F stands for fetal.
Okay.
So when you are in your mother's womb, the type of hemoglobin that forms in you initially is called a fetal hemoglobin.
Okay.
It is quite weak. And it doesn't last. Because you are in your mother's womb, you are not really exposed to a lot of pressures from outside. So it has a very short lifespan. Some people, unfortunately, when they get older, are not able to transform. Naturally, when you are born, your body should transform from producing hemoglobin F to the normal, which is hemoglobin A.
Okay.
But unfortunately, this person was one half of his hemoglobin still remained F. Okay. The other half that became adult hemoglobin, unfortunately, didn't form normal and ended up being S. So you are maintaining fetal hemoglobin on one side and abnormal hemoglobin S on the other side. That's what we call SF.
Okay. So would we say that the SFs are also they have sickle cell disease?
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
And it's also one of the severe form of sickle cell disease, actually.
Oh, wow. So now we also want to look at the blood groups. What are the blood groups? What do we look out for when you are going to get married, when you are pregnant, and all that? What should we look out for?
All right. So Mama Rita rightly started by mentioning there were 4 main blood groups. All right. So for our discussion, we will maintain it at that because that's the truth. The main blood groups are the 4. We have A, we have B, we have AB, and we have O. The way I discuss it is we see the blood groups as a way. It's like a jersey. The way you see the red, you know this one is a Man U or Liverpool. Unfortunately for Man U, now it's Liverpool.
Okay.
When you see the blue, you think it's. By the way, I'm a Man U fan. So
wow, wow,
so
wow. Me, I don't know inside though, but I know my son is Man U.
Yeah. So when you see the blue, you recognize Chelsea. Similarly, we come as different individuals. The body has to find a way. For instance, if let me make a weird example. If they cut part of me and attach it to you, your body must find a way of knowing that this is not me.
Okay.
So those markers are called antigens.
Okay.
And on your blood too, the body has a way of knowing that, hey, it is my blood that is just flowing.
Okay.
Or at least, if not me, it's something similar to me.
Okay.
And we call them blood group or blood antigens.
Okay.
So it is these antigens or jerseys on the blood
Okay.
for recognition that we give names to.
Okay.
So jersey A, jersey B. Without jersey, it's called O.
Okay.
That's where I'm coming to. So when you use
without the jersey,
the bare-chested people, those ones, they
okay.
you know.
Oh, wow.
So that it's important to know it that way. So A means you are jersey number A. B means B. Jersey number AB, he has a half.
Okay.
You know, half of his shirt is red, half is blue. He's called AB.
Okay.
Then O means he's shirtless. He doesn't have any color.
Wow.
All right. So O is like 0, not.
Okay.
But we give it a term O.
Okay.
So that's what leads to the 4 groups. So actually there are just 2 antigens actually, A and B.
Okay.
If you have both antigens, you are called AB.
Okay.
If you have only A, you are called A. If you have only B, you are called B. If you have none, you are called O. All right. And just as I said, it's a way of recognition. So if we are all supposed to be A, and then I see someone coming shirtless, I know he doesn't belong here. Okay. In the same way, if we are supposed to be B, and I see an A person, I know he doesn't belong. Okay. And that is where the reactions come. The question you ask now is, how is this important? Okay. One, for the idea of blood transfusion. Okay. It comes up a lot, especially for women going to give birth. Okay. You may require blood transfusion. And the blood given to you must be accepted by your body. Okay. So if I am A and you want to give me blood group B, my body sees the B jersey as not part of me. Okay. And it will react against it. And even for organ donation, I believe some of us have heard about organ donation, kidney transplants and co. These same blood group antigens are very key. Okay. If you don't match blood group antigens, you cannot give an organ to somebody because it's going to react. The reason is that even though we call them blood group antigens, these same antigens are also found on most other organs of the body. Okay. Just that they were studied in blood, so we always think of them as blood. But they are found everywhere in solid organs, the liver, the kidney. You find the A, B, and co. also over there. Okay. And oftentimes when you hear, you don't just hear A, you hear A positive, A negative. Okay. So there is another blood group antigen called the rhesus factor. Okay. So just to let you know, like Mama Rita mentioned SF, one day you hear something else. The blood group antigens are actually more than just A and B. Okay. They are actually a lot. Wow. They are a lot. All right. But the common ones are the A and B. So you hear A, B, O, and all that. It doesn't mean that's all there is. So there's another one which is also important for today's discussion called the rhesus antigen or the rhesus factor. And the name I always say, just so you remember, that is from a rhesus monkey. All right. That was where the study was found. So the name rhesus is rhesus monkey. Okay. But those of us who have the rhesus antigen, if I see your blood in me, I need to recognize that you are part of me, and you must also register the rhesus. So if you have the rhesus antigen present, we say you are positive. Okay. Negative meaning you don't have. So if I say you are A positive, it means first of all you have blood antigen A. Okay. and you have rhesus antigen also present.
Okay.
That's what gives you the name A positive. If I say you are A negative, it means yes, you have blood group antigen A, but you don't have the rhesus antigen present.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
Okay. So now I am O. I know I am O. Let me forget about the negative or the positive now. For O, who can give me blood? Assuming I need blood transfusion, who can give me blood? Or we need to look at the negative and the positive to be able to know who will be able to give me blood?
Yes, it's important.
Oh,
but
okay.
generally, just to make it simple, O doesn't have any antigens. All right? So it means that he will repel both the A and repel the B.
Okay.
You understand? Because he is shirtless. So whatever your shirt is, he doesn't care. So far as you are in shirt, he knows you are not part of him.
Okay.
It doesn't matter the color. So for somebody with blood group O, he can't take blood from A, he can't take blood from B, he can't take blood from AB. He can only take shirtless people like himself, which are O.
Oh, okay.
On the other hand, the AB is good. AB would tolerate O.
Okay.
You don't have a shirt, but he will give you a shirt to wear. You understand? So he will tolerate O. He will tolerate A because he's half A.
Okay.
He will tolerate B because he's half B.
Okay.
And he will tolerate AB because he himself is AB.
Okay.
So AB is the most receptive blood group.
Okay. AB.
AB. They would receive blood from almost everybody.
Okay.
Then the others, A would take blood
So
from...
you are saying that AB can even take from O?
Yes.
Okay.
And actually O is the blood group that is easy to donate. Because it doesn't have any part. It's like... it can go anywhere.
Okay.
He's a guy who doesn't have a shirt. So when he comes, you can put any shirt you like on him and take him like that.
Okay.
So if you want to make him A, you just put an A on him and keep him by you, like just to say it in that way. So O blood often can be given to almost anybody in an emergency situation. So you can donate O blood to people. So that's the irony of it. You can give the blood of an O person to almost everybody, but you can't give anybody else's. It doesn't.
Dr. Akumi, that is why I believe Jesus was O, like me. Jesus was O, because if Jesus could give blood to everybody seated here, oh wow.
Yes, so yes, he mentioned the universal donor. They are called the universal donor. All right, they will donate to everybody, but unfortunately, only their kind can give them back.
Okay.
So he's generous, but unfortunately, only one person can give him something. Okay. And then the reverse for AB.
Okay.
It's called the universal recipient. He will receive from everybody, but he can only give back to his kind.
Okay.
AB. So unfortunately, it's the direct opposite. AB would take blood from everyone, but he can only reciprocate to AB.
Wow.
O will rather
Very
give
selfish.
to very. O will rather give to everyone, and yet would only take from his kind.
So everybody is taking from us.
Exactly.
And they are not giving to us.
So when you go to the blood bank, oftentimes blood group O is finished.
Oh,
because
okay.
any emergency,
They
get
go
me
for
group
O.
O. Any emergency, get me group O. Yes. So that is the situation. And we love them when they come to donate. Because we know this blood is gold. You can give to anybody. So when you have
Did you hear? My blood is gold. Treat me well. So I can always give you blood like Jesus. Wow. Oh, okay.
Yes.
So when it comes to B can receive from only AB.
Only B.
Only B.
Yes. Or O. Because as we said, O can be taken by anybody else.
Okay.
So B can only receive from fellow B or from O.
Okay.
A can receive from fellow A or O.
Okay.
AB can receive from everybody.
Okay. So now, what's the difference between the negative and the positive? I know I am O positive. So I have children who are B positive and I have children who are being negative. What is the difference?
Yes, so it complicates the issue a bit. You see, we made it simple by just saying A can receive blood from A. But when you now add the other antigens, then things get a bit complex. So the positivity must also match.
Okay.
The thing here is, the way I try to explain it to make it sensible or easy to understand is, the resource antigen is like something that is not, it's something, I usually say it's a dirty thing, all right? So unfortunately, those who are positive, you bear that dirt on you, which in a sense would have been a bad thing, but is a majority carries the day kind of thing. Majority of human beings are resource positive. So even though it was supposed to be an antigenic thing, then it qualifies you rather to be the normal.
Okay.
Whereas the minority, let me not call it abnormal, the minority are rather the negative group. Okay. So for somebody who is positive, I already have debt on me anyway. So if you give me nice clothes, I don't have a problem. So for a positive person, if you give me a negative blood, I will receive it. You understand? Negative means there's no debt on it. Okay. It is negative of antigens. It is negative. So I already have antigens and I'm not complaining.
Okay.
I am positive. So if you are giving me something that is even cleaner, why should I complain? I will actually be more grateful. On the other hand, the one whose blood is clean of antigens, meaning he's negative of antigens, he will not receive a positive blood because he will react to it.
Okay.
So it's like a dirty room and you are bringing clean towels. Nobody complains. The reverse cannot be done. You can't send dirty towels to a clean room. Let's see it in that way. So for a positive person, he already has antigens. So he can take both his antigen positive blood from a fellow plus antigen negative blood and he will be okay. But the reverse, if you are giving a negative blood to negative, he will be fine.
Okay.
But a positive blood to a negative person, there will be a big reaction.
Okay. So, Dr. Kumi, assuming somebody gets pregnant and is positive or is negative, what happens when you are pregnant? What happens to, or can a negative get married to a positive? Or a positive get married to a negative? How do you explain it?
Yes, it's very important because when it comes to resource antigen, this is one of the big issues that comes up. So we know that it's only a problem when the mother is negative.
Okay.
Only a problem when the mother is negative and the partner, that's the husband, is positive.
Oh, wow.
It's only in this scenario that you are worried.
Okay.
Any other scenario, forget about it.
Okay.
No problem. The only scenario you will be worried about is a pregnant woman who is negative.
Negative. It doesn't
of
matter.
Any type.
Okay.
O negative, B negative, it doesn't matter. Her blood is negative, the woman.
Okay.
And her husband is positive. That is where the problem is.
Wow.
The reason is that the child she's carrying may either take after her blood and also be negative. Then that one, no problem. We are both negative. Or the child may take after the father.
Okay.
So now you have a woman who is negative carrying a baby who is positive. Okay. You understand? So it's like you've transfused the foreign body into her. And she will start mounting an immune reaction to destroy that baby. Oftentimes, the first baby may escape because the reaction may take a while to build up, by which time the baby is already born. But the immune system leaves memory. It doesn't forget. Okay. So, as they say in Chi, say, so now you have found your way out, no problem, we've marked you. So the next baby that will come, there will be a very brutal reaction. And most of those babies are either miscarried or they are born with a lot of complications. Yes.
I see. So what do you have to do? What must a negative woman do if she's pregnant? Yes,
most doctors, this is like one of the things like Holy Grail. The moment you see a pregnant woman who is negative, most of the folder you see, they will even put a red mark there. It's a big issue for anyone. So doctors don't miss that. But for you, you should also know what to do. So there is a medication that is used to kind of blindfold the immune system.
Okay.
And pretend like no stranger passed here. Forget about that boy you saw. He's not a stranger. So we have a way to trick the immune system, sort of. This medication must be given to you in the course of the pregnancy. Oh, okay. Usually after your second trimester, you'll be given a shot of it. And then just after you deliver, you are given another shot. As I said, it's a way to kind of cover the antigen so that your immune system doesn't recognize it.
Okay.
If your immune system doesn't recognize that there's a positive baby, he wouldn't react. And therefore, there will not be any memory left for subsequent pregnancy. And this must be done in all your pregnancy, unless you are sure you are done. So after the last one, I don't want again. So maybe you can decide not to have that injection. But if you are hoping for subsequent pregnancy, then it means your previous pregnancy, you must do the same injection.
So it means that from the very first pregnancy, you start taking those shots?
Very first. The moment your immune system recognizes and reacts once, it's done. You can't undo that reaction. It leaves a memory forever. So you don't want the memory to build at all.
So, Doug, what are you saying? Assuming I am negative and I didn't know I was negative, I got pregnant as a teenager and I caused abortion. There was no shot given to me, no medication given to me. What are you saying? What happens to assuming I get married now and I am negative, my husband is positive? What happens to the children I would have?
Yes, so the same reaction can, because you see, an abortion or even an early miscarriage is still pregnancy. So your body would have already been sensitized. And so sometimes the woman may forget that I had a miscarriage many years ago. So she thinks she's having her first pregnancy, but that's not your first. Your first pregnancy has already been recognized by your immune system, and it's already armed to the teeth against the one you are calling first now is actually your second. So it will be destroyed. So you realize that the woman keeps having multiple miscarriages all the time, yes.
Wow. So what do you do under this circumstance?
Yes, there are therapies that can assist, but as far as I know, there's not much that has been done about that. The best bet is to prevent. Most of the medications now, the aim is to prevent the reaction. But when the reaction has already taken place, it's often quite difficult to do. But we can ask them to see the gynecologist. And there are newer, innovative ways. Medicine keeps moving forward. So every problem, hopefully, is surmountable. But our best bet is that you don't want that scenario to happen to you.
I hope somebody is listening to us. When the Bible talks about walking in holiness, my darling, God knew your situation before he asked you to walk in holiness, before he asked you to flee fornication. Assuming you don't know your blood group, you get pregnant, you are born again, or you are not even born again. You are scared what your parents might say, so you abort. Now, you are getting married proper. You think you are going to have your first baby. In actual fact, that first baby is not your first baby. It might be your third. Somebody says it. Or your fourth. So now you start having issues and complications and complications. So, Doc, what happens to somebody who is negative, marries a positive? She knows she's negative, but she gets pregnant and she doesn't know she's pregnant. What happens?
So it doesn't matter. It's about the age of the pregnancy. The early stages of pregnancy, usually the baby's, what we call the placenta, is now forming. So there's very little exchange between the baby and the mother. So that's why we don't intervene early. It's the later stages when the placenta is fully formed.
Wow.
From the second trimester onwards. That is when the tissues of the baby start to interact with the mother.
Oh, okay.
So it is at that point that the mother may start to recognize that, hey, there is a foreign tissue here and start to produce immunity.
Ooh, okay.
So in your early stages, you may not know. But if you are not beyond your second trimester, it's not too late. The moment your doctor recognizes, they take the necessary action, you'll be fine.
Wow.
You'll be fine.
Hey, you've been listening to us. We are looking at blood groups, and we are looking at the other one is
The resource.
Resource. So blood group and resource. Blood group and resource. We are looking at that. Doug is saying that before you get married, my darling, before you fall in love, you need to also check, what are you? Are you AA? Are you AS? Are you AC? My darling. And I've told my daughters, I don't want to be a grandmother. This work I have started here, I won't stop. It has come to stay. Yeah. You didn't clap. So I don't want to be a grandmother running around. Doug says we shouldn't say sickness. We should say...
persons with sickle cell.
Pardon?
Persons with sickle cell.
Persons with sickle cells. I don't want to be running around. I was in school with friends who have sickle cells, and I don't know. I will invite another wonderful woman who is also a nurse to join Dr. Kumi. She has worked with children for years. She would share her story and her experiences with, I don't want to say sickle cell, not sickles, but sickle cell children. What it means like, and the agony parents go through. She will share with you.
But often, these children come in, sometimes the parents look more miserable than the children.
Than the children, my God.
Because your child is in pain, especially the very young ones. Another one I encountered, mommy, was 5 months.
5 months?
Very little.
You mean the baby was 5 months?
Yes, ma'am.
And had crisis?
And had crisis. The only way we could identify it was sickling was because of the swelling. Because the child can't tell you how much he or she is in pain. So you, per your the discretion, will have to tell this is sickling. And the mom has no knowledge about it. Because the mom doesn't even know the father's status.
Imagine.
And so, such children, it's all about hydration, managing the pain with painkillers, also checking to see if there's any infection, and also you need to check the temperature.
Okay.
For instance, Accra now is very cold, and such children, as we speak, are going through crisis.
Wow.
And
so, what would you advise? Dr. Kumi has said it already, but you have seen it from both the children's side and from the parents. If you have a child who was AS, what would you advise? Would you advise the child to go for another AS? Or if the child was SS, what would you advise him to go for if they were getting married?
Thank you, Mommy. Dr. Kumi did a very perfect job there. Because if we think of today without thinking of tomorrow,
that's right. I like that.
Our tomorrow will be a disaster. You are in love. It's good to be in love. But you should also think of what comes afterwards. Will you be able to withstand it? You are couples, AS. You've gone to marry AS. Mommy, I have an example. The first time I met these people, I actually cried. They are old now. A pastor, and who is now retired. AS, they got married and had 3 children. They lost the last one 5 years ago.
Wow.
All the children.
All the children are
SS.
SS.
Yes. They lost the last one 5 years ago. And I didn't understand why aged people be living alone without any child. And
Oh, so you mean they lost all three?
all three.
And they lost the last one 5 years ago?
Ago.
Oh my God.
So out of my curiosity, I asked. And when the woman started talking, it was then I realized that it was sickling, their sickling status and not spirituality. These couples had someone living with them. The lady ran away. That was the woman's niece. She ran away because she thought it was communicable.
Oh. Break it down for Pastor. So she thought she could also get it.
So instead of staying with them to learn, she had served faithfully and they enrolled her into a trade. When the last child passed on, she ran out of the house.
Because she thought she would be the next. Some witches. The man could be a wizard or the woman could be a witch. Oh my God.
This one says, what if you miscarry before the second trimester? You are negative and your husband is positive.
Dr. Kumi.
Yes, so that's a very interesting question. And the more reason why your pregnancy should be seen by your doctor, preferably your obstetrician, very early, because they must anticipate such event. Anytime there's any event that may lead to some bleeding, it may be miscarriage, it may be a procedure being done, interventions must be taken in any of such procedures. So a miscarriage before the second trimester would warrant you being given the necessary medication, like I mentioned.
Okay.
Right? So in that situation, don't wait for you do the intervention right away, because she's had an event that can cause what we call isoimmunization. That means the immune system reacting.
Right. I would like to find out if the daily intake of Zingovit can help a child with sickling status. If yes, how long can the child be on the drug? Also, if there are any side effects for taking this drug, both long-term or short-term.
Mrs. Dagbe, since it's to children, this is your area.
Thank you. Normally, it's folic acid we put these children on for life.
Folic acid is you put, you give children folic acid for life. Yes. Okay. And what are the side effects? Somebody's asking.
The fellow asked concerning zinc. It's
zinc. Okay. So you don't need to give zinc.
It's a supplement.
Okay.
Yes, so he mentioned Zinkovit. It's actually a multivite.
Oh, okay.
A lot of times, as Mrs. Dagbe said, we put them on folic acid. But in addition, just supplementing their vitamins is also ideal sometimes. If the child is eating well, has very adequate nutrition, then they may not need the extra supplements. So these are vitamins, and a lot of them are water-soluble vitamins. So vitamin B, vitamin C, and what have you. It doesn't often accumulate inside. So the worry about it being overdosed or toxic is not something we are often worried about. Unless you probably decide to carry the whole container and give to the child. So we are not really concerned about risk.
So what Dr. Kumi is saying is that all these medications are water soluble. In other words, when you urinate, it passes through your urine. Perfect. So it doesn't leave toxins in your system. So the child can be on it for life without having side effects. And then make sure that your children are also eating well. They are eating well-balanced meals. And I keep saying it on our show. Our meals in Ghana is good. Our contomere is good. Garden eggs is good. Banku and okro is good. Batuosafi is good. Please stop the fast food for the children. check, stop it. Once a while, they can have it as a form of celebration, but it shouldn't be a regular meal. The one that all the students take to school. Indomie, my darling. Indomie is only starch. Indomie is only starch. Custard is only starch. Cocoa between the white corn and then the millet. The millet has more of protein than the white corn.
And what about
so,
soakings?
The what?
Soakings.
Soakings. Our gari is good. Our gari is good. But it must always be balanced. If you are taking gari soakings, it must be with milk or peanuts or something. Make sure that it's a well-balanced diet. So please, if you don't know about a balanced diet, when you go to the hospital, ask for a dietitian or just talk to your doctor or your nurse. They can get you somebody who can show you what to give to your child with sickle cell. It's very, very important.
Awesome.
I know people with sickle cell that are married, they have children, they have grandchildren. I know people who stay till 65 years, 70, 75. So, my darling, if you take very good care of them well, they'll live very long.
Do certain chronic diseases have to do with your blood group? This is coming from Pastor Anas.
Okay.
So this is, I was praying for this question. Actually.
You were praying for this question.
Yeah, because I've been quite worried about how it's making a lot of waves now, people dieting based on blood group and all that. It's truth and it's myth. In fact, it's very true that certain chronic diseases are associated with blood group, and a lot of research data is available.
Okay.
So even things like cardiovascular illness, when I say cardiovascular illness, heart problems and all these, it has been shown that certain blood types seem to have a higher predisposition than others. And especially cancers have been studied a lot. And there are particular cancers like stomach cancer, pancreatic cancers that are commoner in some type of blood groups. Even things like ulcer, duodenal ulcers, gastric ulcers tend to have predilection for certain blood groups.
I hope it's not the O.
Actually, the O seems to be favored a lot in most of these chronic diseases.
God. If you have the blood group Jesus has. Oh, that's the best thing I heard tonight.
Most of the research seems to actually correlate more with the non-O's than the O's. So the O's tend to be the exception, tend to be the protected ones. There are very few situations where the O rather is the one who's affected, but those are few. But most of the conditions tend to rather favor the O's. And even for infections, it's obvious that certain infections, some of the blood groups are more resilient. The O's tend to be very resilient to certain infections. All right? But then it goes into myth.
Okay.
That if you are a certain blood group, you have certain temperament. If you are a certain blood group, you have certain foods. Those are more or less some anecdotal evidence that appeared years ago. And a lot of them have been debunked. They've been disproved. But just for people's own interest, they keep on publishing it in books. And the reason is that when the idea about personality and blood group was published somewhere in Japan, it has been long debunked. But you see, the family that did this publication sold millions of the book because it was a world bestseller. And the son of whoever did it is still propagating. They even have a big board that is still fueling this message around the world. And people actually believe in it and living their lives accordingly and saying, maybe I'm blood group A, I don't match with you, our temperament don't match. But those are fallacies.
That's right.
So when it comes to food and personality, it's been clearly shown that that link is false. But chronic diseases do, and even infections do relate somehow to different blood groups.
Thank you. I was in school. I used to tell people I was a sickler because I used to love the attention they were given. Every morning they would boil water for them. They were given special meal. They could go to the sick bay at any time. And I used to love that attention. Oh my God. So Dr. Kumi is saying we need to be sure. Some people do not actually have sickle cell, but because of the way they've been falling sick and all that, everybody has labeled them as, let me use this word, sickless. So we need to know. And then we have SS, anemia. Today we have had another one, SF. We know of SC. We know of AC. So we need to know which is which. Thank you.
Okay. You can also have enough blood volume, but still have crisis, in the sense that those with sickle cell, they have the C shape. Normally, red blood cells are round, which flow smoothly. But as a result of poor oxygen supply, their cells easily become C, which makes the flowing through the narrow tissue very difficult. So they accumulate around where the tissue, they are having problem in flowing, thereby causing pain around that area and sometimes swelling, which we normally term the crisis. Because when it's like that, the fellow goes through pain. And also when they are exposed to cold weather, they go through crisis. So it's not only low HB or low blood volume that causes a crisis. Some of these also causes crisis.
We look at the high-risk couple. For instance, we said the blood group, there's really nothing barring them. It's just about taking precaution, letting them know that when you get pregnant, these are the interventions, so that you don't forget. There have been situations where your provider forgot. In some places, the provider probably may lose his license. In certain places, the provider will go scot-free. So you have to also be your own chair and then say, you are supposed to give me this at this time. All right? So that's all for the positive and negative in pregnancy. However, for sickle cell, the aim is that two things. People with sickle cell, we must support them so that they can live a very perfect life. The truth is that in the times past, it was thought that sickle cell, you can't cross more than 35 or 45 years. But that has been challenged. In developed countries where there's proper care, 99% of them are achieving very normal life, right? Whilst here, the life expectancy is still low. It tells you that it's not the condition itself, but it's about how we are treating them. Like she mentioned, a child with priapism who is being flogged. In addition, I mean, that stress alone can actually worsen the crisis of the child, all right? So taking good care of sickle cell people, or they taking good care of themselves, can actually let them live their full potential. The other thing we are worried about is how to reduce the prevalence of it. Because every year in Ghana alone, 2% of all babies born are sickle cell. Wow. That's a lot. I mean, they are almost about, that means you're looking about 10,000 children. Wow. All right? 2% are all sickle cell. Every year, the total number of children born, 2% end up being sickle cell children. So if we can make good, informed choices before marriage, that's the only way we can try to, manipulate these numbers and then reduce the burden of the disease. So that's what we are talking about here. So it's about you being informed so that you make the right choice. From a doctor's perspective, I wouldn't have any clear cuts and say if you are this and this, you can't marry. But rather, what I would tell you is that the highest risk comes with the higher the number of S. So both being SS, that means that one, I will stick my neck and say it's a no-go area.
It's a no-go area.
Because it's like you are going into a gamble already knowing that 100% I will lose. That's right. That one is not a good gamble. It's not even a gamble. It's not a gamble. You are not gambling because this one is 100%. All right? You're kind of
a rumble in the jungle.
Mission. The gambles are where there's a slight chance. That's right. And the lower the chance of having sickle cell, that's SS anemia, the better for you. So that means 2AS, there's a 25% chance of SS anemia. It's a gamble you may want to take, but in a very informed manner. All right? That means that you could go either ways. But when it goes beyond this, that is a chance that is too risky. So it's like you have SS and AS. That is also a very difficult call. And maybe I'll leave that to Mama Rita too.
Okay, for us as a church, normally, personally, if you come to me and two of you are AS, I look at the age. You are 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, maybe up to 27. I might discourage you from getting married. That is when I will bring in people like Mrs. Dagbe to talk to you, because she has been on the ground and she has seen it from her, she's seen it personally. Babies who are sick, children who are sick, and then the pressure the parents go through. So if you are young and you are AS and you have met another AS, as much as I can, I will discourage you, talk to your parents, and then also send you to the sickle cell unit at Kolebu to go and have a look at what parents and children go through. But then, if you are 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 40, that one, what I will do is that when you are pregnant, the first one, AS, I will stand with you, fasting, prayer. Pray that the 25% chance you either get AA or AS. There's a family I prayed with. Their first twins. The boy was AA. The girl was SS. And I'm telling you, what they've gone through with the SS is not easy. Now there's something called the marrow transplant. If there's time, I will let doctor talk about it. I don't know if they've started it in Ghana, but it's done outside Ghana. It's done in the European countries and then in America. But even that, the number of surgeries the child goes through, my darling, you have to stop work and be in the hospital with the child for weeks and sometimes even months. It's not easy. So if you are young, my darling, you are not falling in love only with your heart, but you are falling in love with your heart and with your brain. But then, like I said, if you are old, you've missed the chance of getting married earlier, and now you are in your 30s and somebody comes with AS, what can we do? I would encourage you would add prayer and fasting to it.
Thank you. Please, my question is, can we have a child with CC? That's all the question we have. CC.
They said, can we have a child with CC? You are the medical people. I don't know about CC. I know about SC. I don't know about the CC.
Yes. As I said, the numbers can mix anyhow.
Okay.
So the same way we have C, we can have a CC.
Okay.
Yes. So that's in fact, it's very common. And it's not as severe as, we don't call that sickle cell, because we said by definition of sickle cell, there should be an S at least.
Okay.
So CC is also an abnormal hemoglobin situation. It's also, they also get some form of crisis, they get some complications, but it's not as severe as SS.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you, Doug.
This one says, I have heard people testify how growing up in life, their genotype was altered from SS to AS. Doctor, how is this possible?
I've also heard it before. I don't know if there's anything like that.
Yes. So it's about the accuracy of the information.
Okay.
You see, so when we sit in the clinic, we hear a lot of stories that sound like, hey, some way there, but you don't blame the person, because it's what they know is what they are saying. a lot of times it's either there's a problem with the diagnosis. There have been people who have a strange type of sickle cell called S thalassemia or S beta tau. Most of these people were diagnosed as SF.
Okay.
Until then he tells me, oh, so when I went for a conference in London, then they did it again. They said I have S beta tau. Meanwhile, growing up till I was 30, I knew I was SF. So I'm just saying it because, and it's not once, these SF individuals have ended up being S something else. But the kind of test that was being done, sometimes there's another type of hemoglobin called a D. So SD. Okay. And you see that the technique being used may miss a D. And SD person would his whole life say I was AS, because the D probably is being seen as an A on the test. Till one day he goes somewhere and a more robust test is done and they say you are SD. Now we're suffering. So these are some of the stories. When the diagnosis is missed, you may be characterized as SS. Till one day you get to know that you were actually SF or AS. So it's not that it transformed, it's just that there was a misdiagnosis.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. We'll go on to the next question. This one says, hi, Mama Rita. I am Benes, reaching you from Tema. Thank you so much for bringing me an eye-opening message each and every time. God bless you. Thank you. Me, and as usual, you're looking splendid.
Thank you.
From Sierra Leone, David, Freetown, he says, please, can the doctor in the studio explain what will happen to both partners having the same blood group, example, blood group O+, in terms of pregnancy? Thanks in advance.
So, I mean, there's no problem.
Yeah.
We said the only problem was that one scenario I gave you. A negative woman of any type, a positive man of any type.
Yeah. And I hear the negatives are the percentage-wise is very small.
Yeah, so that's the problem. So ideally, a negative woman would have preferred to have a negative man.
Okay.
So we don't even have to calculate any risk. But of the men here, if you close your eyes, maybe only one will be negative. That one person knows. So it's a very minority group. Okay. So don't say you are only waiting for a negative man. Yes, I bet you. So
I like that.
You take the positive man like that, and then we see how we can help so that together we manage this.
All right.
So my darling, if you're a negative woman, please don't wait and say you are looking for a negative man. By all means. The percentage of negative men we have, my darling, I hear is about 1% or 0.0 something percent.
Even half of that is in India.
Even half of that is in India. So the possibility of getting to India to see the other half, my darling. So go in for a positive if you get. We'll add prayer and then we'll leave the rest for the doctors.
What will you advise if, he says, I am asking this lady I've met, whom we plan to marry in future, to go for a hemoglobin checkup, and she's not willing to go. Mama Rita, what should I do?
My darling, then you need to come to Royalhouse Chapel. Because Royalhouse Chapel, before we start the counseling, it's very, very important for us. It's very important for us that we know your blood group, we know your sickle cell, we know whether you have hepatitis B or C or A, whether you have HIV. It is so important for us. We need to know. Any lady listening to me, my darling, now with technology and now with what's the English word? Knowledge. It's good to know it. Now you are hearing it from Dr. Kumi and Mrs. Dagbe that you need to know it. You need to have a pre-informed or take a pre-informed decision. You need to know it before you get pregnant. You need to know whether you are negative or you are positive. It helps you. As a young girl, you need to know whether you are negative or you are positive before you even go in to have that abortion. Otherwise, it might affect you in future. So I think that your gentleman, if you are listening to me, your gentleman is right. Please go in for the test and know where you stand. If you know it already, let him know. There's nothing wrong with it. In case he is AS and then you are also AS, we will counsel you and then tell you what to do according to your age. You heard Dr. Kumi very well. If you're also a negative in terms of your blood group, at least when you are going to get married, it's not a death sentence, my darling. If you go and it's a negative, it's not a death sentence. Now with technology, something could be done by all means about it.
All right.
Thank you.
And she says, to be sincere, crisis of sickle cell is very unbearable. I have grown to believe that it is devilish, her words, and the only cure is submission to the Lord Jesus Christ. And then she gives a testimony. I used to have crisis almost every month, sometimes twice in a month, until I met Jesus. But now I am healed and free. But I would be...
So she doesn't have the crisis as much as she used to.
She used to, exactly. But I would want the doctor to speak a little on hydroxyurea.
Please,
Doctor, over to you.
Stay at the concoction level.
Concoction level. Herbalist.
Herbalist.
You want to talk about
Please.
No, take it.
All right. So, as I was saying, the move to reduce the disease burden of sickle cell, one of them is testing early.
Okay.
Universal testing of all newborn babies, so that we can pick it early, and then the complications, as she mentioned, wouldn't happen in young children. Because at that tender age, you can imagine the trauma. I've seen a young boy with stroke from sickle cell, and that was quite, and not just stroke on one side, both sides. So he's paralyzed totally, stiffened up, and it was a very difficult situation. But if it was seen early, so that is where hydroxyurea comes in. It's doing quite well.
What is it?
It's a medication.
Okay.
It has been there for a while, but it looks like now it is being championed, and it's been made very available to even not so rich countries like Ghana. All right, I think there's a global move to fund its supply so that it becomes universally available. So in Kolebu now, most young, and it's for people whose sickle cell seem to be a bit problematic. Some people are thriving, they don't need to do much to feel okay, but others keep on getting repeated crisis. And so they are put on hydroxyurea, and it tends to give them less crisis so that they can live a very comfortable life. If a sickle cell patient doesn't have repeated crisis, they can live a normal life like everybody. So your aim is that they don't get a crisis. Okay. Or if they do, you catch it early and then treat it. So it's a medication, and it's quite good. All right. I would just want to once again say there's no need for you to be anxious. There's already a lot of anxiety from coronavirus. Don't add this
I like that
to your problems. You see, we've said that when it comes to blood group, we don't have any criteria of saying you can't be together or it's not safe, because as he mentioned, the drug is called Rogam.
Okay.
So the drug I am referring to is called Rogam.
Okay.
And he has just mentioned that. So it's available. And so if you get your doctor to be aware that I'm pregnant, this is the scenario, he will tell you what the timelines are. Just have to make sure that, unfortunately, some of the doctors don't explain that it's not only at, say, 34 weeks that you need the Rogam, but if you have some significant bleeding, you have to come earlier for it. Okay. So some doctors fail to give such. So if you get your doctor to be aware, he will take you through what are the events that will require an earlier shot. Okay. So all those things will be discussed with you. Okay. So you don't need to do any prior gynecological assessment for anything. It wouldn't yield anything. Okay. Just go into it if you are sure this is the partner you want, and you are aware of what could happen, and you think it's a calculated risk. So if you think the benefit of the woman you are getting outweighs, and especially when that risk can be remedied. It's not a big problem. All right.
So, like I said earlier on, being negative is not a death sentence. Please, don't worry yourself about it. Leave it for the doctors. The only thing is that when you get married and you realize that your wife is pregnant, just go and see a gynecologist, or you just see your doctor immediately. Let the doctor know your wife is negative, and then they will tell you what to do. But until then, my darling, relax. Relax. What we are even talking about might not even affect you. We are only telling you to have a pre-informed. You should know it and know what to do. Unfortunately, a lot of people do not know. So when they are pregnant, they don't even go to the hospital early. They tell themselves they are waiting. When I'm 3 months, when I'm 4 months, when I'm 6 months, before I go and see a doctor. So all we are saying is that when you realize that your wife has missed her period, let her go to the hospital and you don't have a problem. Yeah. Mrs. Dagbe and Dr. Kumi, you will give us your final words and then we'll bring it to a close. So, Mrs. Dagbe first.
Okay. Thank you once again, Mommy. AS is already a red flag. I think Mommy should add it to the red flags.
My red flags. I like that.
But if it happens that you still came together as couples and there's a child in the family, the child is a blessing from God. Most times you see most of the men running away, leaving the child for only the woman to handle.
Wow.
Which is heartbreaking. So it has happened. Most of the men that run away, my word to them is to try and stay and support each other. With oneness, you can defeat it. The child might be SS. The next one, the chances of being AA or AS, it's high. So you have a healthy child and you enjoy your marriage. But if you still have a child that is SS, you can prevent crisis just by keeping the child warm, reducing infection in the child, restraining the child a little from certain activities because they are very active, but they can't do everything. So with putting all these measures into place, you can still have a healthy child and you will reduce your hospitalization.
Dr. Kumi.
All right, so my last comments is an appeal to all of us. Sickle cell is huge in Ghana and in Africa. The quality of life is what matters. It's not a death sentence. Our aim for this gathering is to try and reduce the likelihood of giving birth to more sickle cell children. But if someone is already sickle cell, the problem with sickle cell in Ghana is neglect. There are a lot of doctors with sickle cell. There are a lot of lawyers with sickle cell. Prominent people that we can't mention, whom you see every day with sickle cell. And a lot of them are going into their 90s and 80s, and they are doing fine. So it's basically a disease that is suffering because of inequality. They are people who are suffering because they are poor. All right? So I would urge all of us to, one, avoid stigmatization, and two, we hope that these people get the best care in our own little way. Now we are in the rains. The rains will come with a lot of crisis. The Hamatan. So those are the two seasons where they suffer a lot. And an act of kindness and some care may be all that they need to thrive.
Wow! I can't believe we have been here for 2 hours. It's been so informative, so educative. And I hope you made notes and you'll be referring to your notes. I want to say a very big thank you to Dr. Kumi and Mrs. Dagbe. Without you, the program wouldn't have been a success. Thank you so much. Please make a date with us next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday with Mama Rita, with Reverend Emmanuel Agomeda, our apostle of North America, and with Apostle General himself. It's going to be heaven on earth. Until then, please take good care of yourself. God bless you, and I love you. Thank you. And for my audience, thank you so much. My audience, what will you say to Dr. Kumi and Mrs. Daggy? I thought you were going to give them